everybody, and welcome to today's video. I am very excited to say I get to talk about Cris Tales today. This is a game that has been on my radar for quite some time. Ever since I first saw a screenshot of it, I have known that I need to play this thing, and I've been waiting for it for quite a while. It has been in development for a long time. It has had setbacks and delays and stuff, but it is out now. Embargo has lifted. You can check out my review on digitallydownloaded.net. And you can watch this video. This video is not going to be a full review. I do talk about a lot of stuff in the written review that I'm not going to talk about in this video. What I want to use this for is to really highlight the things I love about this game, because as a vision, I think it is quite magnificent. And I'm a little bit concerned that the technical elements, which I do go into in the written review, will drag down the conversation about the overall vision that this thing has, because it is quite special. It's unique, and I think the developers should be very proud about what they've done here. Certainly I have loved playing it, and even through the kind of the small niggling issues that I do have with it, even through those, I couldn't put the controller down while I was playing this. I think this is one of those examples of a game where it doesn't necessarily have to play perfectly for it to be compelling and engaging and interesting and different. And we spend so much time playing games that are so samey and similar to one another because they follow best practices. It is nice to play something that is willing to be different, even if that does compromise it a little bit. So that's really where Cris Tales sits for me. Like I said, I go into some of the issues I have with the game in the review, but this video is really to talk up what I love about it. So while it is the visual stuff that is immediately appealing and the first thing that'll probably catch most people's interest with this game, for me, it's actually the storytelling that is really compelling in Cris Tales. The game adopts an approach that is similar to the Super Nintendo era of JRPGs, the likes of Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6, and Chrono Trigger, where it is fairly efficient in its use of words. You're not going to have 45-minute long Kojima-style cutscenes in this one, and as a result, you're not going to have 10 layers of depth to dig through in the narrative and end up writing a 3,000-word essay like you would with, say, Death Stranding or whatever. This one's a little bit more surface level, but it hits the beats pretty hard and effectively. And the main point that this game wants to make is around environmentalism and using the time mechanic that it has to show the before and after. So what will happen in the future if steps aren't taken now to really preserve the environment we live in. And it hits those notes very hard. Like one of the first towns that you visit, in fact, the first town that you visit after the introduction, you get to see a before and after of that town, and in the after shot, you see that the entire town has been flooded by rising seawaters, which is a fairly obvious parallel and motif on what's happening in the real world with climate change, and that's quite clearly what the developers want to drum home. They're also quite interested in, I guess it's a word that's difficult to say in video game discourse because it tends to spin people out, but it does have a very strong Marxist bent to it as well, in that it is very concerned with the plight of the commoner versus the elite's ability to wield power and corruption, and the corrupting force that power can have on people, and how that ends up impacting on the working class. So this game definitely hits those kinds of beats. They are what you would probably expect from a South American developer, to be honest. I mean, we all know that South America has a long and quite proud tradition of progressive politics and thinking in their storytelling, and that seems to play through in this one. And that was really the thing that really kind of interested me about the game. After I saw the first screenshot, I started to investigate it. I found out that the developer was from Colombia, and when I did an interview with them later, they did say that they very much wanted Colombian storytelling, thinking, and traditions to come through this game. Now, I don't know that much about Colombian storytelling. I don't believe I've played another game from there, and I'm pretty sure I haven't read too many books from the region either. It is a kind of black spot for me that I should remedy. But I definitely get the sense from playing this that it is a very authentic game, and in that, I am pretty sure that they've delivered on what they wanted to. People who are more familiar with Colombian storytelling will probably take that out of this as well, which is, it's nice to see. I've always been an advocate for our world games to emerge, where we do get games that express storytelling traditions from places outside of the kind of the big two, because we're so used to getting games out of Japan and the West, Europe or America, that we don't get so many stories that really represent the other cultures around the world, like we do with film and literature. I've wanted the video game industry to follow that track for quite some time, and South America in particular seems to be doing that. We are getting some really nice games out of South America. Cris Tales is the latest of those, and certainly one of the most compelling that I've played. The other thing that is really neat is the way that this game takes its core narrative mechanic and turns it into a gameplay mechanic as well. Time manipulation is very important to Cris Tales. Very early on in the introduction, you gain the ability to fast forward and rewind time, see the future and the past, send your little frog companion, who is very cute, and I'm not entirely sure why he's there, but I'm glad that he is there. You get to send the frog companion into the future and the past to investigate things further for you, and so on and so forth. So the time mechanic is very important, and it plays such a critical role in the combat too, which I found to be really interesting. So in combat, your forces are in the middle of the screen, and on one side of the screen is a section where enemies might sit, and you can send those enemies into the future. On the other side behind you, there are enemies that you can send into the past, and you need to use your abilities in combination to really take advantage of that. So a easy example is one of your characters can create poison, and they can poison an enemy. So if they poison an enemy in the present, and then you send that enemy into the future, all of that poison damage that would have accumulated over time is done in one big hit, which can make that combat significantly easier. On the other hand, or in another way that you can use it, you can send enemies into the past where they become the juvenile version of themselves, and they become much easier and weaker to hit. One of the early boss battles is this enemy that you need to hit with a water attack because they're all covered in metal armor, then send them into the future where that armor is therefore rusted and not as effective, so you can damage them better. So this game keeps using and finding interesting ways to use this time rewind and fast forward mechanic. There are times where you'll need to cancel the time dilation that you've done. So if you've sent an enemy into the future, you need to cancel it so they get returned back to the present. It is possible to accidentally make the battle harder for yourself by sending enemies that get more powerful in the past or the future into the future of the past. And then at other times it becomes a bit of a risk-reward thing where they will become more powerful if you send them into the future, but if you then do the right thing with your combination of skills, you can still beat them before they can damage your party too significantly. So these are all very interesting things that this game does that I haven't seen in JRPGs in the past. I've played a lot of JRPGs over my years. I've played so many of them, and I don't think, at least I can't remember having played one that works like this, where you need to manipulate time on both sides of the screen, send enemies into the future, into the past, manipulate abilities so that the time effects are kind of exasperated, and that becomes critical to an awful lot of the combat as well. So many JRPGs have really nice little mechanics in them, but only use them in the boss battles. Outside of the boss battles, you just kind of grind through for experience levels or whatever. In Cris Tales, I was using my abilities quite a lot in the lead up to the boss battles as well. So very well done to the developers for this. I'm very much a person that likes to play JRPGs for the narrative first and foremost, but this one, the mechanics really hooked me in a way that very rarely happens these days with turn-based combat. Usually I'm used to turn-based combat being within the same ballpark as one another, so one game might have a slightly different spin on it, but they all kind of exist in the same world that Final Fantasy and Persona and Dragon Quest exist in. This game it's inspired by Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy Super Nintendo titles, sure, but it's out there in its own thing. It really is innovative in what it does with this combat system, which is surprising and exciting, and I would love to see what they can do with it on a second run around. And then, of course, the game is absolutely breathtakingly beautiful to look at. Again, I've never seen quite the same art style used before. I assume it's inspired by Columbian art movements, but I've never seen it applied to a video game in the past, and it's just every environment I went to, I couldn't wait to see what they did with it. It has a picture book aesthetic in the dungeons that you explore around, so it's 3D, but you move in and out of the page in a way. But it doesn't look picture book like Paper Mario games have done in the past or whatever. It is its own identity. The combat system is beautiful. The enemy design is just gorgeous. When you come up against boss battles, they're suitably intimidating. When you first run into them, there are just moments where the vision just strikes you and hits you really hard. And that is super impressive for such a kind of new developer, an inexperienced developer as these guys, to be able to come up with something so consistently awe-inspiring as Cris Tales is a truly impressive effort. And then finally, just to mention the music as well, because I don't usually break games down by categories, as most people who watch this channel would know. But this one, just all the components are just so beautifully done independently of one another. The music in this game, I would buy the soundtrack for in an instant. I can't play it here because who knows, YouTube will probably pick it up as copyright strike. But the music in this game is just breathtaking, and it certainly fits with the themes of the game, the tone of it, and everything else. So it goes to that picture book fairy tale aesthetic as well. It perfectly backs up everything else that the game is doing. So anyway, that's Cris Tales. This is going to be an underrated hit, I think. I do think that on the Metacritics and whatever, it is going to lose a couple of points for its technical elements, which I mentioned in my review. But the vision of it is so strong, so compelling, that I think that people who are really into their JRPGs and have played a lot of JRPGs will find this one different and interesting and invigorating and well worth their time. And I do think it is well worth your time. So I wholeheartedly recommend it. Please do check out my review on digitallydownloaded.net. And that's all I have to say about this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I believe there is a demo out anyway. So if you've played the demo, let me know what you think about the demo. Otherwise, let's talk about the full game once you've got your hands on with it. Please do click that like and subscribe if you have enjoyed this video and enjoy what I do in general, because every additional subscriber certainly helps me to continue to grow my channel. And if you do want to support what we do with a little bit of cash, then I would absolutely love you to do so. You can back us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month or more if you are feeling generous. And that support helps me grow both the YouTube channel and the website. And additionally, you do get a magazine out of it each month. I've just published the July issue of the magazine. It is gorgeous. It's a 48-page thing that goes deep into the culture of Japan. It's not just about the games, it's also about the films, the literature, the music, the art, the history, and everything else. So I think it's a good magazine. It's certainly the cheapest magazine subscription you'll get, because you can get onto that Patreon for as little as $1 a month. So your support would be most appreciated. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching this. Tune in. We'll have plenty more videos this week. We've got a lot to talk about. Big week for game reviews, and we'll see you at the next one.